The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own. They may not be the opinions of this network, their groups, or other organizations they may be involved with.
Ganja me meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja we take away my stress and strain. Ganja me meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja me meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. And the way the Cali we be bring it on door. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking marijuana around you. Ganja in me daily, ganja me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily bed. Give me the revelation, it's not to get too much when it's been growing. So long that's why we call it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ganja News Update for this Monday, March 18th, here on the NOK Network, the video news podcast, focused on cannabis news being reported in the mainstream media. I'm joined by my amazing host, Michele. How are you, Michele?
I'm tired. It's only Monday, but yes, I'm tired. It's been a long day, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, you would say you're driving to the airport, so that's always. I find that's always.
I had to do an airport run today in Toronto, and that's never one of my favorite things to do. But unfortunately, my husband travels a lot, so I just take him and come back home.
Nothing too eventful for me, other than just puttering around, still waiting for things to get a little bit warmer out before I can go full force outside. So I've been actually spring cleaning inside this week, just getting clutter and stuff up from. I'm going to start a grow room upstairs, so I'm getting the room cleared out. So other than that,
I popped a few seeds. I definitely did pop a few seeds, and they're coming along okay. But I am going to maybe take a drive out to the reserve and get a few clones this weekend as well. So
I can send you.
Today it's snowing, like not snowing, but like it's cold. Like everyone was back
for winter, but it was incredibly cold. I'll send you a link too, because I actually just got some seeds in today. There's a guy in Ontario that I get mine from, Aqua Genetics, and he has feminized autos and the great genetics, and just a good and pricing is very good too, them being feminized, which is great because you don't have to worry.
I like some autos. I've never tried autos, so yes, I would like to try them.
I was saying in my podcast, especially if you're experienced growing, like if you're the first time grower, go with photos. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to grow,
I do.
Autos are fun because they're so short.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that weight. It's just, I was saying on the podcast that just that beginning stages, you really have to baby them because it's so short. Your veg stage is so short, and that's important to get them to the size.
Yeah.
Get them because if you have anything during that. I'll give you some tips and tricks. Maybe even if you're feeling better this week, maybe you'll pop on the podcast with me on Thursday, because I'm actually talk about a little bit about auto growing and like some of the tips and tricks. So maybe you want to pop on and we can chat and ask questions.
Like I said, I've never tried autos, and to see that satisfaction so quickly, I know we would really enjoy that. So. For sure.
But anyway, we'll get into the stories for this week. We've actually got some, or we always do.
It's not stopping. The tax stories aren't stopping.
Not in Canada, anyway.
Yeah, it comes to us from our friends at MJ Biz Daily. Canada's finance minister has been warned about the cannabis industry financial distress. Canadian Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland was warned last fall about systematic financial distress facing the country's cannabis producers, including skyrocket tax debt and widespread insolvencies. The calamities facing the industry were spelled out in briefing materials materials obtained through an access to information request and shared with MJ Biz Daily.
One of the documents included in the briefing note, drafted by an official within the Department of Finance Canada's tax policy branch, updates Freeland on the financial state of Canada's adult use market. According to the report, it remains the case that after 5 years of legalization, there are no licensed producers of legal cannabis products that are consistently profitable. The briefing note, titled Update on Financial Distress in the Cannabis Production Industry, documents a litany of issues facing the sector, including
unfair profits earned by some provincially owned cannabis wholesalers, snowballing unpaid excise taxes by cannabis producers, almost no sustainable profits earned by cannabis companies, disproportionate number of cannabis producers entering creditor protection and even bankruptcy, falling prices made worse by inventory liquidation by companies that go under. A separate memorandum marked secret was sent to the Minister of Finance and was almost entirely redacted. The financial distress briefing note came amid the industry's lobbying efforts to ease tax levied against cannabis producers.
Industry group Cannabis Council of Canada told MB Biz Daily that it briefed officials at the Department of Finance of Canada and Health Canada many times about the loopholeness in the cannabis tax and regulation, but had limited success. It's the federal government's model, and over were suggested so many ways to fix this: lowering the tax rate, fixing the clumsy excise stamp administration, removing taxes for patents, patients, and more. Rick Savone, Cannabis Council Chair, said when asked by MB Biz Daily to comment on the briefing materials, the federal government's design of the program is flawed in so many levels, but it's their own design.
Maybe the next federal budget will finally acknowledge our industry's financial struggles by delivering concrete actions, as Minister Freeland has done recently for overregulated industries. The briefing note said that dried cannabis, which represents majority market share, is still subject to excise duties of $1 Canadian per gram, or 10% of the wholesale price, whichever is higher. The report acknowledges, however, that in practice, that 10% rate rarely applies. That might be the first time the government acknowledges the excise tax is usually $1 per gram of dried cannabis, which is generally higher than 10% of the wholesale price.
Cannabis tax debt and insolvencies. The report for Freeland shows that Canada's cannabis producers increasingly are falling behind on their federal tax, excise tax obligations, a situation MB Biz Daily has been reporting on for some time. Federally licensed cannabis producers owed the Canada Revenue Agency $279.2 million as of June 30th, 2023, according to the report. The federal report went into more detail and has been released to the public, noting as of June 2023, 83 businesses had tax debt of less than $1 million. Collectively, they owed $34.1 million. 40 businesses had a tax of between $1 million to $5 million collectively, and they owned $67.7 million. 9 businesses had a tax debt of $5 million to $10 million. Collectively, they owe $29.3 million. 16 businesses had a tax debt of more than $10 million. Collectively, they owned $99.8 million.
Subsequent and unrelated to briefing materials, Canada's tax collection agency followed through on a threat to garnish cash from some licensed producers delinquent in their excise duty payments. The move was a major escalation in the CRA's effort to collect the excise debt. Days later, cannabis firm Bazam was granted creditor protection with massive unpaid tax bills. The briefing materials for Freeland also acknowledged the disproportionate number of cannabis companies that have filed for creditor protection. In addition, 14 cannabis companies filed for creditor protection in 2022 under the Cannabis Creditors Arrangement Act, representing 36% of all CCAA filings last year.
Another 12 companies have filed a concern with the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy in 2023, which includes receivership, creditor protection under CCAA, and bankruptcies, the report notes. In the report to Freeland, the government acknowledges that so-called inventory liquidations are affecting the broader market by driving down overall prices. One consequence of the firms going out of business has been the discount selling of the remaining stock to other producers and wholesale retailers, according to the report. This is further driving down cannabis prices and keeping more viable product stagnating in the inventory. This will likely deepen the financial struggles of other firms still operating in the legal market.
Gouging by provinces. The federal report notes that some provincial governments are extracting more profit from the cannabis industry than expected, while almost no consistent profit is earned in the private sector. Provincial governments receive money from the cannabis industry mainly in two ways. Most provinces signed a coordinated cannabis taxation agreement in which the federal government collects the cannabis excise tax and redistributes roughly 3/4 of it back to the provincial coffers through province-owned wholesalers, or in Quebec's case, province-owned retail stores. The report notes that beyond federally administered excise duty, privately owned cannabis authorities involved in the wholesale distribution and retail of cannabis products continue to perform strongly, in large part due to their own monopoly, basically buying and price setting power. The report cites New Brunswick, Ontario, and Quebec as operating provincially owned cannabis wholesalers who profits from the industry matched or exceed their revenues received from their excise duty. In fact, the most profitable cannabis businesses in Canada are entirely owned by the provincial governments.
The federal report concludes this equivalent to a near or actual doubling of the $1 per gram excise duty in these provinces. These profits are beyond what is envisioned in the CTAs, which for margins and markup would be reasonable, only cover operating costs and capital expenses, and to generate a normal rate of return compared to what be expected in the private sector. When Canada federal government releases its budget for 2024-2025 fiscal year in mid-April, industry stakeholders will be watching for signs of potential excise tax relief. In its report in advance of 2024 federal budget, House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance proposed adjusting the excise duty formula for cannabis. The committee wants the excise duty changed so that it's limited to 10% ad valorem rate, meaning 10% of the value of a transaction, which would be the amount substantial reduction in the excise payments in most cases.
Well, we got to wait for the budget now to see if they do anything. We'll see. I find it strange. They did something for the alcohol industry last week or the week before because of lost revenue and sales that they're blaming on basically the cannabis industry. So why is the government not backing their good horse? You know what I mean? The one that's
I already told you why last week, and it's because the alcohol industry is more tighter into government. They have more lobbyists. They have more money right now. Like they've been in not more money, like more not potential money, but longer term. Like they've been paying off their, dealing with the government for way longer. They can just get things done faster because of the people that are in place. So I'm not saying it's fair.
We're going to see a lot of businesses close.
It's what
and I don't know if they're going to last for the budget. We have to wait and see, I guess.
Well, honestly, we will. Like, I just have to wait and see. I think by looking at it is they're trying to make a monopoly where they're the only ones making money off cannabis and nobody else.
Well,
That's why.
absolutely.
They're trying to push everybody out because they're either going to make their money off the taxes or they're going to make their money selling it themselves. But they don't want to give up that money to the private sector, period.
No.
So yeah, that's exactly it.
It's really
so
sad.
That's what they want. What they want to do is they want to push all these private companies out to the point where they're the only ones selling it. So we'll see how that plays out.
Someone's still got to grow it. But anyways,
that's it. Right. Well, we'll go to the next story here. See, I just get so tired of it's not that I don't care. It's just I just don't see it changing anytime soon. So it's just kind of like hopeless, a little deflated when it comes to our policies and what's going on. I'm more excited about what's going on the world front than what it is.
Yeah, I got to be honest. It's starting to get that way where, you know what I mean?
I'm more excited for other countries than myself because I just know we're stagnant right now and we're not going to be moving anytime soon out of this situation.
No.
But we'll go on to the next one. This one's not so bad.
Yeah, this one's not so bad.
This one's from MB Biz Daily. Canadian, British cannabis companies, Aquas and Canaray, to merge. Medical cannabis companies from Canada and Britain are joining forces to create global vertically integrated business to tap into opportunities in Europe and beyond.
Nova Scotia medical cannabis cultivar and processor Aqualitas has signed a definitive agreement to merge with Canaray Limited, a European medical cannabis company headquartered in London. The merged will be based in London and led by Canaray CEO M. Scott Maguire. A spokesperson told MJ Biz Daily via email. The name of the combined company will be announced shortly.
In 2023, the combined revenue of Aqualitas and Canaray amounted to approximately 51 million, 69 million Canadian dollars, according to the news release announcing the merger. In a phone interview with MB Biz Daily, Aqualitas CEO and founder Amara Gillis said that the merger won't result in layoffs and the company is hoping to continue growing in Canada. It's very complementary to what the companies bring together, said Gillis, who's planning to stay on board of the combined entity. The merger comes amid industry consolidation that usually results in job losses.
She said it's important for people to understand that this is an integration story that's based out of Europe, because having that precise presence is a real differentiating point. Stable, predictable sales growth has proven to be a challenge for medical cannabis exporters, whether they're from Australia, Canada, or Colombia. Exporters sometimes see large swings in global shipments quarter over quarter, stemming in part their highly competitive nature of the industry. That's what's nice about this, Gillis said. We have more stability in the predictability of our own supply chain, but we also have diversity of customers and integration for other activities as well. To end, Canaray has two medical cannabis divisions, Thermoso GmbH in Germany and Thermoso Limited in Thurismo in the United Kingdom. So they already have two.
The company said the merger sets them up to capture growth amid a pivotal moment in the European medical cannabis sector, as countries such as Germany are set to potentially substantial growth for the years to come. We are positioned to play a leading role in Germany, where the German market is expected to grow exponentially as a result of the impending declassification of cannabis from a narcotic to a non-narcotic, Maguire said in a statement. We one of the few European companies that will send seed-to-shelf operation in the UK and Germany. Germany, Thermos has a partnership with the Walgreens Boot Alliance German subsidiary, Alliance Healthcare, GEHE, which has 4,000 partner pharmacies, the company said in the announcement. In the UK, Thermos has a medical cannabis dispensing pharmacy and clinic.
It's good to have a combination of different customers in your portfolio with different bite sizes, Gillis said. It's also important to have redundancies in your supply chain. If you have those two things together, you can withstand any disruption that's ultimately and likely to happen. We've seen it. Aqualitas is a privately owned, vertically integrated Health Canada license holder distributed in all Canadian provinces and overseas. Aqualitas is my baby, Gillis said, and I always have my heart with her as a founder, and I'll continue to support the organization. You need to be purposeful and strategic about these things. We had a plan from day one. This international integration was always a part of that plan early on. You keep focused and the right things will happen. Oh, good for them.
I have to wonder, judging by their name, I heard years ago, like about 5, maybe longer too. No, it'd be longer. It was like 8 years ago that there was plans in Nova Scotia for an aquaponics cannabis firm. Mm-hmm. Judging by their name, I think that must be them, because Aqualitas.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of LPs that use aquaponics, that use fish and that type of stuff, right?
In Nova Scotia specifically, there was that first one was going to open. I think that's the only one in Nova Scotia with these guys.
Yeah, there's been a couple here in Ontario as well. But yeah, it's definitely like aeroponics is too. Yeah. Again, I think we're seeing more of that again as well, because it takes up less space and you can hang it right from up
it's less water. You can do it. You can do a vertical grow with it. It's kind of similar to like my PVC system. It doesn't spray, but it's same with my PVC water system. There's a water reservoir, but it's not much water compared to like if I was to do hydroponics with that same amount of plant sites, I would have to have about 5 times as much water. So yeah, definitely.
I visited an aeroponics place, and I did visit one of the ones with the fish as well. It was cool. That was back like 5 years ago when we first started. That company isn't even, I don't even know. I mean, honestly, the one with the fish. But yeah, but I think I think we're going to see a lot more like different things like that. Like if they can do stuff like that in the growing process, I just don't understand why we can't be better in the packaging part. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they'll have to figure that out too, because from when I watch documentaries and stuff, plastics is becoming very expensive. So, and because it's just a shortage of oil and all that, and we're using a lot of plastics and producing it, so it's a lot more expensive than it was, like say 20 years ago. So
yeah, they're going to have to.
I'm going to think you're going to see a shift towards moving away from plastic packaging as it gets more expensive.
Yeah.
And then our used before was because it was cheap, but it's becoming less and less cheap to use.
And then our last story before break comes to us from MBiz Daily. Retailer High Tide reports break-even net income, record cannabis sales. Canadian cannabis retailer High Tide reported break-even net income and positive free cash flow in its financial results for the first quarter of the fiscal 2024. The Calgary, Alberta-based company said late Friday that its revenue for November to January quarter increased to $128.1 million, a year-over-year increase of 8% from $118.1 million.
High Tide said it remains the highest revenue-generating cannabis company that reports in Canadian dollars. The company's chief executive called breaking even in net income a critical milestone. I'm very proud to announce that High Tide has reached its break-even net income this quarter, which is a critical milestone in an ongoing corporate treasury and its rarity in the global cannabis space, CEO Raj Grover said in the news release. While there's been an industry-wide softening of Canadian cannabis sales in the post-holiday months and having made essentially no acquisitions in over a year, I'm proud to report that our company continues to grow organically and has had a sequential decline in revenue since going public in 2018. The company said it's generated $3.6 million in positive free cash flow in the quarter, which defines as net cash using in operating activities minus sustaining capex and lease liability payments.
High Tide said it intends to remain free cash flow positive through fiscal 2024. Cash on hand as of January 31st was $28.7 million. The company has 165 locations across Canada, which High Tide, citing data by ATB Capital Markets, says it's enough to make it the second largest cannabis retailer in North America by store count. In the quarter, High Tide opened 7 new stores, including 2 each in Alberta and Ontario, and 1 apiece in British Columbia, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. The company entered Ontario's third largest city, Mississauga, after helping spearhead efforts to convince its city council to opt into cannabis retail sales.
Other High Tide highlights of the quarter included a record of $7.3 million in sales from its Cannabis business data and insights platform, including advertising revenue. That's an increase of 11% year over year. An adjusted earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization increased to $10.4 million in the first quarter, up 90% over the same period last year. 32,000 people in its paid loyalty program as of March 2024. More than 1.3 million memberships in the company's Cabana Club loyalty program as of March, an increase from 975,000 1 year earlier. High Tide shares its trade in HITA on the NASDAQ.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's one company doing well.
Yep.
So I guess they said it's the highest, the biggest one in Canada. So again, it's just they've got the system really set up for the larger government-backed corporations are the ones that are going to make the money. They really don't want the small guy to make money, and they've made it so that's the case. And then anybody that can't afford the excise tax, go fuck yourself and get out of the company or out of the business, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not saying it's right. That's the basic message of the Canadian legal system right now when it comes to legal cannabis.
Yeah.
So, and that just proved it there, right? Like, you're going to have to be making millions in order to, and those guys just broke even. And they're the biggest company in Canada, and they just broke even. So if that's going to be hard for them to achieve, then it's going to be 10 times harder. Well, if you start small.
Well, I find it strange that they just broke even too, because I mean, that company is also known for selling data. So I'm just going to come right out and say.
So they're probably putting a bunch of the money from the data sales into
absolutely.
The cannabis to even things
absolutely.
Out. Oh,
like,
yeah, 100%.
You can't fool anybody anymore. Like, we know that it's happening, right? So I know I'm a member. I know how many emails I get in my garbage from being a member there. So I know you're selling my information. So it's no secret. So if you're just breaking even and you're also selling data, wow, that doesn't say a lot about the cannabis industry.
No, they're selling the data to basically make up for the excise tax.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So it's medication time.
Yes, time to pay some bills. Stay tuned for a word from our sponsors. Then we'll return with more news making mainstream media here on the NOK Network.
Back in a few minutes here on the Ganja News update on the NOK Network. Go on.
Are you a Northern Ontario resident? Searching for credible information on cannabis as a medicine? No Sir is here to help. Established in 2013, Northern Ontario Cannabis Education and Resources is here for you. No Sir Director Kim Cooper brings you 45 plus years experience utilizing cannabis as a medicine and is spreading the education across the North. Activism, resources, referrals, and more at no, sir. Don't be a jackass. Say no, sir, to cannabis propaganda with No Sir. Find us at www.nocer.ca.
Peace, news, and views on NOK Network. Patients everywhere advocating cannabis evolution with Kim Cooper and Sir Steve-O. Joint hosts interview people in the grassroots and corporate cannabis space across North America and beyond. Sit down with patients, entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, and others share their journey with this medicinal plant. So join us for Peace, News, and Views. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where all consumption is medicinal consumption on NOKnetwork.com. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on social media and streaming sites including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble.
Psychedelic Tuesdays on NOK Network. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Psychedelic Reports. Ufa Alvarius is scouring the newsletters for stories being reported in mainstream media on psychedelic rights and passing them on to Hobby Puppets and Karen Simpson so they can bring you, our listeners, in this 60-minute video news podcast. Join us for Tuesday Evening News, weekly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all your news and information in the world of psychedelic medicine. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble. Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie nights, spotlight on entertainment, and live on location event coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Rumble. Check out our webpage at www.nokknetwork.com. Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at nokknetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@nokknetwork.com.
Welcome back to the show in our regular program.
And we are back from our medication session live on Ganja News Update here on the NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories making the cannabis news, so let's get at it. This one I thought was kind of cool. This is like a little break from our not boring, but
bullshit.
Dry information.
Well, like if the news was good, we could say, but it's not good. So,
So at least it's a little more lighthearted here. It says that's from Hollywood Reporter. Jimmy Kimmel producing cannabis series for Honolulu. High Hopes debuting in April 20th. It will follow two brothers running a pot shop in LA.
Hulu plans to celebrate April 20th with Jimmy Kimmel. The Disney-backed has
You're cutting out really
out
bad.
a 6-episode series order for High on the board. Oh, am I?
You're back now, but you were there. You cut out there for a second, but you're back now.
Okay, I'll reread that. The Disney-backed streamer. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Docuseries. Two brothers running a cannabis shop in Los Angeles, with Kimmel on board to exec produce.
Hulu describes the High Hopes as a workplace reality series following the Belarus-born brothers Salva and Misha as their stone crew through the trials and tribulations of taking their cannabis business to new heights. As one of the oldest cannabis dispensaries in Hollywood, MMD attracts a wild mix of weed-loving customers to its home away from home for their OG employees who work hard and smoke harder. The season builds to the biggest day of the year, 420.
You're cutting out.
See, it must be StreamYard. 420, as the game attempts to expand nationwide and release their own top shelf cannabis brand. Will they find what they're looking for, or will the hopes go up in smoke?
The series will fittingly premiere on April the 20th on Hulu, as sources say it will be rated TVMA for mature audiences. Kimmel's Kimmelot banner exec produces High Hopes along with ITV America, Kimmel, Scott Lonker, Ben Steinbauer, Kim Cohen-Laurie, and Carl Holland. Exec produced the Steinbauer, with Steinbauer also serving as showrunner.
ITV America division of ITV Studio also produces unscripted series, including Netflix's Queer Eye, Peacock's Love Island, Fox's Hell Kitchen, ABC's The Chase, and Bravo's Real House of New Jersey. The order for High Hopes comes in after California became the first state to allow medical use of cannabis recreationally, use of cannabis recreational use, also legal in the state. Many states in the U.S. have legalized both medical and recreational use. South Carolina, considering use of cannabis illegal. Kimmel founded Kimmelot in 2018. The company also produces ABC's Prank Panel, Generation Gap, live in front of a studio audience, Comedy Essentials, Cranky Anchors, and of course Jimmy Kimmel Live. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of nice to see
hilarious.
A reality show. What's that?
That's going to be hilarious.
Well, and I just think it's good that there's a reality show based around cannabis because, I mean, at this point right now, you can't really, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, if you get any kind of cannabis subject matter, you're going to get flagged. So it's not common on those platforms. So it's nice to start seeing it on TV. Maybe the platforms will follow and stop. Like, even though it's legal in Canada, if you on any of those platforms, if you post a picture of your legal grow, you have a chance of getting flagged and shut down.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, but I like the idea of showing people that it's not as easy as just, stocking pot and the people will come. California isn't, they're doing better than we are, but they're not doing much better than we are, So, I mean, it's, I think it's going to show the regular public that it wasn't the license to print money like everybody seems.
No. 100%. There's a lot of work.
Like, it's just once the tax man gets his grubby hands on it, I mean, there's nothing left, right? So, and if it does anything and it does that, hey, it'll be worth it. Sad.
I'm just going to flip here because while we're talking, and I should have shared screen, I didn't. So give me 1 second here. This one's from the U.S. I'll let you open this one.
Okay, just a second. I got to find it here myself. Yeah, I mean, here we go again with this. I think we're going to see this. This is happening, right? This comes to us from ABC News. A landmark bill decriminalizing cannabis at the federal level passes House committee. So we're now another step closer for it to be a schedule. Well, here, I'll read it. The House Judiciary Committee passed a bill on Wednesday that could decriminalize cannabis use at a federal level, giving states more room to craft unique regulations. The Marijuana Opportunity Investment and Expungement Act of 2019, also called the MORE Act, could officially remove cannabis from the list of federally controlled substances, expunge federal marijuana convictions and arrests, and approve allocations of resources for communities affected by the war on drugs, according to the bill's text.
The legislation introduced by Rep. Gerald Nadler, DNY, also co-sponsored by more than 50 lawmakers, passed 24-10 in the committee on Wednesday. It would also establish an organization called the Cannabis Justice Office to introduce 5% sales tax on cannabis sales in states where it remains legal, according to the bill. These steps are long overdue. Far long, we have treated cannabis as a criminal justice problem instead of a matter of personal choice and public health, Nadler, the committee's chairman, said during the bill markup. Federal action on this issue would follow growing recognition in the states that status quo is unacceptable. Nadler added, despite the federal government's continued criminalization of cannabis, 33 states and the District of Columbia have legalized medical cannabis.
The landmark bill marks the first time a congressional committee has passed a bill in favor of decriminalizing cannabis at a federal level. It will still need to pass a full House before moving to the Senate, where it is likely to stall. The MORE Act would remove cannabis as a Schedule I substance, a category that also features other drugs such as heroin, LSD, ecstasy, and peyote. States have led the way and continue to lead the way, but our federal laws have not kept pace with the obvious need for change, Nadler said in a statement. We need to catch up because of the public support and because it is the right thing to do. Former Vice President Joe Biden has spoken in favor of decriminalizing cannabis and expunging criminal records for possession charges. But like Nadler thinks, each state should decide whether or not to legalize it.
Biden's lukewarm approach to cannabis has put him on odds with other 2020 Democratic presidential contenders, such as Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who each supported sweeping legislation to reform how criminal justice system deals with the drug. Fellow candidates California Senator Kamala Harris and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker have also released plans to legalize cannabis if they're elected to the White House. While similar bills have been introduced into the Senate, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell noted that he doesn't have any to endorse the legalization of cannabis, as he told reporters in December, despite his approval of last year's farm bill that would legalize hemp.
Still, while the House is a step closer to decriminalizing cannabis across the U.S., it isn't likely the bill will be signed into law by President Donald Trump, who has openly opposed changing federal cannabis laws, even if it ended up on his desk. Trump even donated part of his salary in 2019 to pay for a promotional campaign highlighting the negative effects of cannabis use as a health and human service. Secretary Alex Azar said in a statement in August. So
it's another reason to not vote that guy back in.
Oh my God. And I mean, and I'm happy to see that Biden sees that could be a path to use to get to get back.
He hasn't really yet because he's lukewarm on it, but
he
would be wise.
It's got to happen because if it
come on, learn from Trudeau, get you voted back in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's very old and he's very frail, and
Yeah, well, there's no good candidates. Honestly, when I'm
listen, I
seeing
get
what
it.
they
I
have,
get it.
there's nobody that I would want to
But
see
yeah,
lead
but
their
what
country.
blows my mind is that a country that size cannot get better candidates
It's
for
not
either
that. It's
party.
they don't want anybody that they can't control. So they get. That's
Exactly.
why I think it's so hard to become a presidential candidate there, because unless you're in with those people that, like I
Oh,
said,
I
I've always
know.
said these presidents don't actually run the country, at least in North America. He doesn't. He's not actually making decisions. He's got his decisions swayed by what lobby groups are doing what. Like, it's not one
Absolutely.
person's decision. They're just the fall guy. Same with
Absolutely.
Trudeau. Trudeau's
And
an
who's
idiot.
ever supporting his campaign right now. So that's the thing. You gotta keep those promises to all those people who gave you money, right? So that's just the way it works.
Exactly, right. And it's the lobbyists that are getting their way, not the people, because they're the ones with the money.
Yeah.
So,
well, that brings us though to our last story, and at least this, you know what, this story comes to us from Reuters, and it's Morocco reports first legal cannabis harvest of 294 metric tons. Rabat, March 18th. Morocco's first legal cannabis harvest was 294 metric tons in 2023 after the country approved its cultivation and export for medicine and industrial uses. Cannabis regulator ANRAC said. The harvest was made by 32 cooperatives that brought together 430 farmers covering 277 hectares in the northern Rif Mountains of El Hushima, and I can't pronounce these areas in Morocco. But the ANRAC said in an email to Reuters, the United Nations Drug Agency says about 47,000 hectares of the Rif are devoted to cannabis output, roughly a third the amount of in 2003 after government crackdowns.
This year, the regulators examined applications by 1,500 farmers who organized themselves into 130 cooperatives, ANRAC said. Cultivation of the local drought-enduring landers, known as Bielada, began this month, it said. Although Morocco is a major cannabis producer, officially cannabis used for recreational purposes is illegal. In practice, it's tolerated. Nearly 1 million people live in the areas of northern Morocco, where cannabis is the main economic activity. It's being publicly grown and smoked there for generations, mixed with tobacco and traditional long stem pipes and with clay bowls.
The legalization was intended to improve farmers' incomes and protect from drug traffickers who dominate the cannabis trade and export it illegally. So far, 2 legal cannabis transformation units have been operating, and 2 others are waiting for equipment, while 15 cannabis producers are in the process of being authorized for medical use, ANRAC said. Monaco is also seeking to tap into the growing global market for legal cannabis and awarded 54 export permits last year.
See, that's where
I'm assuming like that the weather must be perfect to grow cannabis there.
I would say. And I was about to say, I think this could, like, once things do start growing in the cannabis industry, I really could see this being really profitable for drought-ridden and third world countries where cannabis can grow. Well, not drought-ridden, but you know what they can grow easier than other crops. That's right. What I'm trying to say. It can grow everywhere, but it can definitely grow easier than other crops.
Year round outside grows. Yes. Well, although after the winter we had we had here, I don't know. We had nothing here, you know. Is that our future with global warming? Is that the future that we're not going to have, where it's now cold, it's going to be hot, and where it's now hot, it's going to be cold. It's so weird that we hardly had any snow this year, and being right off the lake, that's very, very rare.
It also goes,
but
it does sometimes vary from year to year. Like this year, I do know, and it has been somewhat caused by global warming. And well, I don't know the percentage, but there's like the jet stream was off this year, like when we have the El Ninos. And that's a natural cycle, the El Nino versus, I think I can't remember what the opposite is. So, I mean, it's a little combination of both. We have our natural patterns, but they are being affected and being more extreme from one to another because of global warming. I don't think it really means that you're going to be completely tropical. I just think you're going to have more extreme. Like it's either going to be no snow or a shitload of snow. Do you know what I mean? Like next year.
Yeah, it was weird. I found it so weird this year, though. I just found it really strange.
Nova Scotia, here, we just still got snow, but it was like some areas, like I didn't get very much, but north of Halifax got fucking dumped all year. Yeah. Right. But they're notorious for getting a lot of snow anyway. So I don't know, like we're all learning this fucking global thing. I think global warming thing as we go, like nobody really knows.
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to grow all year round though?
What's that?
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to just grow food all year round or cannabis?
I could completely forego fucking winter altogether. And I'm one that's like, yay, global warming. If I could turn into a tropical country in Nova Scotia,
yes,
I'd be happy. I know people are just booing me right now, but I honestly could stand. I wouldn't mind if Nova Scotia was tropical. I wouldn't argue that.
But it was a strange one this year for sure. To not have to shovel was really odd. I was at Canadian Tire the other day, and all these snow blowers were on sale for like incredible prices, because they didn't sell any snow blow. Like, you know what I mean? It's just weird.
I know. Like I remember when I was a
snow
kid.
shovels half price. It's just I don't know.
I remember when I was a kid, we got more snow more frequently every year than we do now. That's for sure. But I didn't notice we still got a decent amount of snow in Nova Scotia, so I didn't notice as much of a difference as maybe in other provinces. But I do know again that our jet stream was like. What it's doing is it's throwing the jet stream off. So like the global warming is making it so the jet stream's moving in like where it's not supposed to or something like that. I don't understand weather patterns because there is a certain part that is natural. So weather patterns do change in countries, just not permanently. So that's something I don't know a lot about. Maybe I'll have to get into some documentaries about global warming and weather patterns because I don't know much about that at all. So.
Well, I just find it strange that, countries like Morocco there, that's a lot of cannabis that they produce. That's a lot.
I do believe that they've been notorious for, like it said in that article, I think they have been producing cannabis for the illegal markets for quite a long time. There, I think it's just one of those ideal climates to grow cannabis. So,
yeah, for sure.
I just think it's just finally been made legal there. But I think I'm pretty sure they've been doing it for cartels for a while in Morocco. That's when they mean by organized crime. Just talk about cartel.
Just while we have a couple more minutes, I was reading, and because honestly, I just couldn't do another article about Thailand and what's going on there. But apparently. That's going to be insane. There's 20,000 dispensaries that they want to try to close or change over to or they have to change over somehow to medical.
They're probably going to do exactly what the Nova Scotia market did when they went legal. And that's, like I said, I know a lot of dispensaries that had storefronts, and when it went illegal, because we had this gray area for a long time, and they could have these storefronts.
Same with us, yeah.
They just went underground because by the time that
that's what I think,
they had good enough client list. They didn't need to really build it much more, so they just went underground. No, Kitty. They just
So
went
what's going to
underground.
happen if we have a change in government here? Do you think that there's a chance that something?
No.
I mean,
they can't change the laws. They can't. Our prime minister, like the way that our laws go, in order for any kind of change, it has to be voted through so many levels of parliament. Our prime minister cannot go in and just revert. Now, in the States, they can. The American president can change laws without anybody voting, but in Canada, the prime minister cannot. He has to get approval through the different levels of Senate.
Oh yeah, I get that. But in a change in government, like Pierre Poilievre or Jagmeet Singh, I don't know how pro cannabis or they are.
I don't think they can do that at all in Canada. I think they have to put it through a vote. They have to. They can't do it as easily as they can in other countries. I'm
just worried about the excise tax stuff and like the stuff that Krista Freeland and Trudeau will be in this upcoming budget will be before an election, is what I'm saying. So I'm hoping that that there is a break for the LPs on the excise tax.
Well, that's probably how he's going to try to get voted back in again.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it happening.
I don't want to see him back. I think they were saying like his popular opinion is just like to the shitter right now. Like people like that are been like staunchly liberal are going to vote PC or other just to get him out. Like people that have been voting liberal for years are looking at, basically to get Trudeau out of office. So I just like to see a change. I was hopeful because he was young that when he came to office that he might make a change, but he's just, we need something else in there.
Hopeful politicians and no, there's, I hear you.
Especially, I don't know if you know, but his ex-wife just put out a new book, and apparently she, I think she dropped some hints about being in a bad marriage, and it's not going to do him any favors. Let's just do that. Let's put that his ex-wife just put out a book, basically saying that her marriage was a loveless marriage. I don't think she call him out, but the way that the book is written, I've watched some reports saying she's hinting that she was in a bad marriage and mental health issues and all that. It's just not going to help his image, is what I'm saying overall. Like there's nothing scandalous in the book, but at the same sense, it's still not going to help his image at all.
No,
that she's put this book out. So we'll just have to wait and see. When's our election up? Do we have one this year too?
Well, I'm assuming they're about to call one. I mean, they're going to call one and pretty soon.
So we got both countries going through maybe a possible change this year then, US and Canada.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I really don't want to see Trump, and I don't want to see Trudeau for another term. Neither one of them. Let's just get some fresh blood in there. But again, even when we get fresh blood in there, I just they're all the same. Like they're all the same. It's like dating in your 40s. You're just
I have concerns about Pierre Poilievre too. So you know what I mean? It's not.
No, it's never cut and dry.
Anyways,
you know what I mean? I said, especially like you said, that the politician pool is so fucking limited. You're just, especially in the States, when I look at, they're just choosing the lesser between two evils. Like both of them are fucking. They're not. Nobody running should be running the country. So it's just like. Same with us. I don't see any candidate or anybody that's in office that I'm like, I want that person running our country. So it's like you're literally picking between the lesser of the evils is what you're doing in our system, right? So we'll just have to wait and see. We're close to close. I'm going to bring up my lines here because I have them minimized. Wrong window. So thank you for joining this week on the Ganja News Update on NOK Networks. And for tuning into our video podcast, NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
We hope you enjoyed your update on mainstream media coverage of cannabis news from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors for making this show possible, and thank you to my joint host, Michele, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Medication Mondays with the Ganja News Update on the NOK Network. See ya.
See ya.
Ganja my meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja we take away my stress and strain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress. stress and pain. Ganja in me meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. 100 way to Cali, we need bring it on door. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking another one around you. Ganja in me daily, ganja on me currency. Ganja is the currency and